Welcome everybody to this super easy tutorial for the Flightfactor 777. So this is a really sophisticated plane, a complex simulation, but there's a really easy way to fly it, and I'll show you how. So we jump inside. The first thing we need to do is work out how much fuel we need. So for this we can actually use the X-plane weight and balance menu. So although we don't fuel the plane using this menu, we can still use it to work out how much we need. So we'll put in a sort of lowish payload, and then we'll drag the fuel indicator so that it matches roughly the amount of flight time we want to achieve. So we want just over an hour of flight time, and it's told us that we need about 20,000 kilos of fuel. So we go to the Flightfactor menu, I'm going to load in my config here, and we'll basically tell it we want 20,000 kilos of fuel for the flight. We'll open the left door, open the right door, and then we double click fuel and it starts loading the aircraft. Also remember to set your passenger numbers at the top of this menu. And here's the 777 with all its ground handling equipment. Okay, fueling done, we can close those two doors. We can just remove all the ground handling here. So the cool thing is this plane also has a tutorial mode, but I use it more like a co-pilot. So you basically press this and your co-pilot goes through the startup process for the plane. So by the end of it, you're in a state where the engines have started and all you have to do is program the FMC. So we're not going to watch this whole thing, but we're going to join back once he's done. Okay, so with the engine started, all we have to do is do the FMC stuff. So we'll pop down here. We're just going to go to route and we'll set our departure airport and we'll set our arrival airport. Next step is obviously the flight number, so I'll just make one up and put it in here. We then activate the route and execute that. So we go to departures arrivals. For our departure airport, pick the runway we want to use, and then we can pick the SID associated with that runway. And then you press exec, saves it to the route. Then go back to departures and arrivals, and you pick a star, and then pick a runway and a transition. Execute that. And now we can go into legs, and basically you just have to clear out all the gaps in the flight plan, clear out those discons, and your plan is basically there. So the idea of this video is to show that you can fly this properly, but you won't need like a checklist or sim brief or anything like that. You can do it all in the plane and in the sim itself. So we're just going to step through the flight plan just to make sure it's all sensible. So we'll go into plan view, and then we can use the FMC to step through the plan just to make sure it all adds up, make sure we haven't left any weird gaps or there's no sort of weird routes to fly, because we are just picking SIDs and stars off the menu, but that looks all absolutely fine. So with the ND set back to the normal map mode, the next thing to do is our PERF. So all we need to do is put in our desired cruising altitude. We're going to go for 20,000 because it's a really short flight here. Cost index of 100, so we get the full throttle. And then reserves just set to 1, doesn't really matter. You can press PERF init request, that populates everything else. Put outside air temperature in here. And then we can go to our takeoff ref, so we go flap 5. We then press takeoff data request, that gives you your V speeds. Just click those on the right hand side to confirm them. And that's it, that's our PERF for takeoff, all completely done. We can also check this on the legs page. There's some flickering on the FMC every so often for some reason, but we can check on the legs page, make sure you go up to your cruising out and then back down again, and this all seems good. Next step is on the MCP. So you want to turn on your flight directors, press LNAV and VNAV, put the altitude on the MCP up to your cruising altitude, so in our case that is 20,000 feet. And we'd also want to check, just ignore this, we're not on intercept heading because we're not on the runway yet, check our V2 speed, so 144, and we can enter V2 into our MCP and arm the auto throttle. So you notice we have one message on the display in the middle. So to clear that out, just press those two buttons up top just to tie all the electrical buses together correctly. With that done, we can grab our pushback truck and start to move away from the stand. With pushback complete, we just have to set our flaps, so we're going to set flaps 5 here, get that ready, and we're also going to set our transponder to TA-RA. We'll also set our radio minimums here for our approach, and just check the nav radio to make sure the frequency matches the ILS that we're heading to. And with all that done, we can taxi out to the runway. As we taxi out here, we'll just take a moment to appreciate the Orbex Cardiff scenery. It looks really good, and I need to get more of their airports. Okay, on the runway, so we'll bring our throttles up, we'll click Toga, which I think is an analog for another button in the actual plane, I'm not too sure. So anyway, our speed will build, and we are ready to take off. And rotate. Get the gear up as soon as we've got a positive rate, follow the FD, and in this you can activate the autopilot quite early, so we're going to do that. The next step is just to use the tape on the left hand side of the PFD to indicate when we should bring the flaps up. So we'll continue our climb, and the next thing we need to do is when we reach 5,000, we'll just switch our altimeter over to standard, but we're not there yet. What we can do while we're climbing is we can arm our spoilers for descent, and we can also set auto brake to max for our landing, just to get ahead of ourselves a little bit there. And that's it, set altimeter to standard, and we are on our way to top of climb. As we climb out, we've got time for a quick cabin tour, so we just look at the flight deck first. It looks really good, really nice textures here. You can open the door there, but we're just going to walk straight through it into the cabin. So the first thing you see is this quite nice, I think it's the first class section, a little bar at the back there, which we're going to check out on our way back through the plane. We then go into, I think it's like business class, but it looks sort of more premium economy. And then of course we've got row upon row upon row of standard class economy seating there. But they do have little televisions in the back of the seats. The only difference in this plane compared to the Flightfactor A350 is the 350 models like the crew rest areas in the luggage racks, or just above the luggage racks quite nicely. And that sort of extra detail is missing here from the 777. And as we go into the next section, you can see some of the seat back textures are sort of starting to show their age. But overall it's quite nice. We've got a little mini galley on the left hand side there, and this is the bar. Very nice, and again something that is also in the Flightfactor 350. Some nice big televisions here on the backs of the seats in first class, and we end the tour in the main galley up front in the plane, and now we can head back to the flight deck. Okay, so another sort of get ahead here, we'll go to our approach ref and we can paste in our approach speeds. You don't need to click it again to confirm it. And here we are approaching our top of climb. So that was a really easy flight up to cruise. The setup of the plane was straightforward. Takeoff was easy. The get ahead bits that we've done on the way up mean we'll have less to do in flight. And of course at our top of descent, because this is a Boeing, we won't have to confirm the descent. All we'll need to do once we reach our cruising altitude is to set our final descent altitude on the MCP. So we're going to find out what that is now if we go to the legs page and we'll look at our final approach height. So it's 1650. So in the MCP I'm going to put in 1500, so we should have no problems descending. And you can also see that in our progress page our top of descent time was also marked. The thing you'll see is that some of the predictions are a little bit odd, but the plane does accurately meet its top of climb and top of descent points, and it has no problem sort of navigating vertically along the route. But by and large the predictions are fairly accurate. I will see you at top of descent. So top of descent is approaching. You can see there's that sort of weird flickering where I don't know if it's trying to decide between 2 points or what's going on, but it seems to be a fairly standard feature of the plane. But once we reach our descent point, no problems, the plane will automatically throttle back and it will start to follow its vertical descent path. And you can see here descent is continuing and we've got our approach on the ND just ahead of us, so I'll see you then. Okay, our descent is continuing. We're just going to check the weather at our destination airport so we can set the altimeter when we reach the transition altitude on the way down, which we're fairly close to, so QNH of 1000. And at the transition altitude, which in this plane seems to think it's 6,000 feet, we'll just get that dialed in and set it there. I thought this was quite cool that it says 747 in the display at the bottom. So we're just about to make our final turn towards the airport, so this is when we can start our decel. So as we turn we will put on our approach flaps and we'll slow down to our approach speed, and we'll also drop the gear so we are ready for our landing. Once we are correctly configured, we can set the localizer and then we can enter approach mode, but that follows the deceleration that we're going through here. So now we are on approach, we can go localizer and you'll see it's already established, so we can hit approach. Now all we have to do is wait for our landing as we turn towards the airport, and the plane will follow the glide slope once we're at the correct height. We've just picked up the glide slope and we're also going to dial in our final approach speed from our approach ref. So we'll set that to 140 knots and the plane will slow for our final approach. Because both autopilots are armed, we now get our land 3 indication. So this means that the plane will automatically land itself and roll out once we hit the deck. With everything done, I'm going to go quiet and we will watch the landing together.
Approaching 04.
400.
So the plane backs off the throttle automatically as part of the auto land, and it usually touches down beautifully. So the plane is still rolling out. We are applying the reversers to bring us to a stop. And the passengers are applauding the skillful landing right there by the computer. So we'll disengage autopilot and throttle. With that done, we can just taxi off the runway. And park it up at the hold line. And because I'm really lazy, I'm going to get a tow to the gate as well. While our friend is driving us to the gate, let's take in a replay of that landing.
Approaching minimum. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
A really nice touchdown, brings the nose down gently, and I love the sound of these reversers. And as we arrive at the gate, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and remember, until then, you can always go around. Take care.